Where did the Sharia financial planning interest spark?
Yeah. The particular, as they say, where the nugget landed during COVID, where I seen first-hand examples, an Islamic leader in our community would have unfortunately got ill and passed on. And the family of that individual was unable to do much beyond that in order of carrying on with their lives from a financial point of view. Sure. And then you start understanding underneath the surface why, that particular, community leader didn't have the security from a financial point of view, which is an indictment on all of us as Muslims to look after our community members, especially those who are leading us, in the deen. But it was an example where they would pass on and their families would be left with very little choices of how to continue the very next day. And so more and more examples through Allah's Qudrat reached me, and it became very obvious to me that the vulnerabilities that we have in our Islamic and Muslim community was very evident. And I couldn't just sit back and ignore that. So, while I knew there were solutions out there which met the requirements from a Sharia perspective that were permissible, yet we were not being able to put it in place where it meant the most and it was needed the most. So therefore it drove me down a path of really going underneath the surface, exploring what solutions were there, and then me making a decision around leaving, my position at the time in a corporate business.
That must have been difficult.
We will come to that. I think it's a journey of note, and one learns a lot through that journey. And I think there's many people who go through similar journeys, but being able to take that and go where it matters, and you could sit in a corporate ivory tower and try and do things at an arm's length, but often one needs to get to the ground level to be able to make a direct impact.
You've started a Sharia financial planning business here in Cape Town, South Africa, called Al-Himayah. Tell us, what is Al-Himayah? Who is Al-Himayah? What is its purpose, and who does it aim to serve?
Okay. So Al-Himayah classifies itself as a Sharia financial planning business. And simply what that means is we should be there for anyone who aspires to do their financial planning with the extra aspect of conformance to the Sharia. Al-Himayah means protection in Arabic. So for me, the selection of the name of protection is quite vast in the sense of it should be covering all aspects. We deal with protection of our future, we deal with protection of our current, and largely we want to deal with protection for generations to come as well. I felt it was apt to call the entity Al-Himayah to be able to encompass everything under that particular brand. It's also important that the company name resonated with those who recognize the Sharia in Islamic finance. We could call ourselves such and such Islamic finance entity, but I think it was a personal decision to be able to have an Arabic name which one can easily identify that this is different. This is not your typical financial institution that just deals with your conventional financial planning. It was very deliberate when we chose the name for Al-Himayah to be that easily recognizable, that it has a bit of distinction behind it, and it has a strong association with Islamic finance and Sharia financial planning. So what Al-Himayah was able to do is, if you look at the different aspects of anyone's financial portfolio, usually it constitutes things like, am I protected in the event something goes wrong while I'm living and after I pass on? So we start off with those risk aspects where we look at products that cover in the event of my passing, what happens while I'm alive, how are my risk needs met? If I get retrenched, if I'm able to save for that emergency. So all risk associated events is something that we look at, and we're able to assist in the financial planning for those events. Usually those are unplanned events, but you want to plan for them in the event that they happen. And we look at the investment aspect. So this comes into play where one has a bit of excess funds and wants to see it grow or be there for a rainy day. So one looks at investment structures, maybe for yourself or for your family. We're able to do investments, again, which are Sharia compliant. Then we look at some of the more day-to-day needs when it comes to short-term protection or short-term risk management. This is your normal motor vehicle, house cover that one goes through. Then we look at medical aid, which is also Sharia compliant. So Al-Himayah is able to do it end-to-end solutioning for any client. You
Yeah.
know, just happens to be we have also been able to bring the best of all those available in South Africa and present it in one offering to a Muslim client. We also have our own products which we've developed for purposes of where there were gaps in the market, which are very unique to South African Muslim challenges, like saving for Hajj and Umrah, like saving for wedding days, like putting money away for an emergency event. Those are products that we have and we will continue to look at developing for specific Muslim needs. We've developed an app that we will be working with in terms of bringing that into people's hands and making it more accessible. Again, this is an area that Al-Himayah would want to play in terms of digitizing a lot of what's out there, bringing it to people in an easy accessible manner. So as Al-Himayah, the best way to describe it to say it's the one-stop shop for Sharia financial planning.
Yeah. What efforts is Al-Himayah doing to ensure that the products and services are actually Sharia compliant?
Firstly, our financial advisors are being exposed to Sharia training or Islamic finance training, where we actually have access to scholars internally within the business to support our financial planners with information that they may need to support what they're doing. Yeah. So as Al-Himayah, we work with scholars very closely to support our financial advisors to be able to give them the necessary support from an expert's point of view as to what is Sharia compliant versus not.
Yeah. Alhamdulillah. Any closing thoughts?
It's important that we always self-reflect on things, and one of the things we should be looking at is our financial affairs. And often we hear about if it's not in order, it's probably too late for you, and it impacts those around you and those you love, your family, etc. So be able to take the time and just ask yourself the question around, are your financial affairs in order, in the event something were to happen? And if not, then what would I do about it?